Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to my new segment on the channel, The Movie Corner. And today we're going to be talking about video store memories.
Everybody's a suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
In my introduction video, I just told you roughly what was going to happen on this new movie corner, and I did touch on video store memories, but what I want to do today in this episode is just elaborate more on the video store memories and expand on my experiences. Being a 37-year-old, being able to tell my stories all going to the video stores back in the late 80s, the early 90s, even the mid 90s, right up into the year 2000s. So I'll give my insights on my experiences. I know that a lot of my viewers have obviously been to a video store, but some of the newer viewers haven't, which is so bizarre. Like, for example, my son, who is 10 years old, didn't ever go to a video store. He was probably around 1 or 2 when our last video store in Scotland shut down. So he's never experienced getting into a video store and looking at those covers that he will always remember for the rest of his life, which is quite sad. So that's why I want to keep the video store memories alive. On my channel before, I have done similar segments to this where I speak about the video store memories. I actually done a collaboration with James Grimm about video store memories, but I want to touch up on it again since this is a new segment anyway. So I've got my movies in the background here. Most of what I have in terms of Blu-ray and 4K are behind me. Unfortunately, I don't have my VHS tapes with me because that would have been a good example to show you all the old VHSs that I have and being able to remember. But I have got some on Blu-ray, so I'll go through some of those. One thing I want to show you first of all is a book that I got. I have spoken about this on the channel before, and I have shown it on this channel before time and time again because it's such a great book. It's not a book that you read, it's a book that you look at, so it's good for me. And that is the VHS video cover art by Thomas Hodge, aka the Dude Designs. This book is incredible. It's still available, so you can still purchase it and stuff, but this is an incredible book. Looking at this for the first time, it brought back so many memories of the video stores just because of the covers, and that's what I really want to get into today. Is the cover art is key for movies, good and bad, but what it also is key for is your memories as a child, because you can look at a video cover art and it brings back memories of that specific day, and that's what this book done for me. It also brought back memories of movies that I completely forgot all about, and after seeing this book, I've actually bought some of the movies that are still out in VHS or DVD, etc. I bought some of the movies, and I've even bought some movies that I'd never seen before, but just by looking at the cover art, based on the artwork alone, I purchased it, and I still do that today. I know as an adult today that some movies will be bad. In fact, a lot of movies will be bad from the 80s, but based on the cover art, you know it's going to be bad, but you still buy it anyway, and I still do that today. Now this video cover art book doesn't just do horror, it does action, comedy, horror, sci-fi, kids, etc. Even looking at the kids ones and stuff, I'll show you some examples of course, but just looking at some of the old, even different genres, it brings back so many memories. I mean, don't tell my mum this, but when I went to the video store, I would always go to the horror section, but when she wasn't looking, I'd go to not the adult section, but the kind of romantic thriller section that were all 18 rated. I would always look at the back covers because you would see some really nice, well, nice to me as a young kid, images that you want to look at, but you see some covers like this, Deadly Passions, and what's the other one? Dangerous Love. You'd see this stuff, you know these movies are going to be really, really bad, but you're like, I'm looking on the back cover of this because it looks so good. Again, a lot of these are, in fact, this to me was a horror movie, but this is actually in the thriller section, the movie Fair Game, an Australian movie. This is more horror than anything to me anyway, Fair Game. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But again, the cover art on this is great, and the cover art is what made this movie that I wanted to see it. I'll go to the horror section, of course, because we're more horror on this channel, and you've got some really amazing artwork like Night of the Creeps. I do my own custom cover art sometimes, and I started doing the CBS Fox video cover arts. And again, this stuff, look at this. Grave Misdemeanors. This is also known as Nightlife in the US. It stars a young Scott Grimes as well. This is a really underrated horror movie, and it's one of those ones that, because there's teenagers involved in it, you can kind of get behind the character, Scott Grimes for example. Looking on the, I'm not going to show you all these obviously, but looking at the comedies as well, some of the comedies I just really wanted, in fact this looks pretty good, I've never seen this one before. Joysticks. When you look at that front cover as a young boy, you automatically want to look at the back cover, and then looking at the back as well, it looks decent, it looks interesting. But yeah, so you could go on, and that's a book that I will treasure forever, and it's fairly new still. But the power of, I'll put this down, the power of cover art was key back in the day, because you didn't see a lot of trailers for movies. You've seen some TV spots if you're lucky enough to catch it on the telly or on the television. You never really got access to a lot of trailers unless you rented a movie and had trailers at the beginning of the video, and that was really it. So you relied on cover art to sell the movie to you, or in this case rent out the movie, and that's what I'd done as a young kid. And going into the video store as a young kid, apart from going to the adult style section, I would always go to the horror section, and I'd always want to rent movies such as Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Fright Night, People Under the Stairs. Those eye-catching artwork on covers is what sells it for me. And when you look at those every day or every time you go into the video store, you build up that memory and that nostalgia, and then when you eventually watch the movie, whether it's good or bad, you still love it because you wanted to see it so much as a kid. Now I will show you some examples. I showed this last week on the introduction to my segment, but Fright Night, that was always one of the ones that I needed to see as a young kid, simply because of the artwork. And the artwork does sell. Even today, you're looking at that artwork, it just completely sells the movie for me. There's something about this style of artwork as well, where you've got the ground in a house, and then you've got in the sky some sort of evil entity. In this case, you've got the vampire. And it's similar to other ones that I've just mentioned to you, like Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Now I will need to search for that. 2 seconds guys. I found it. Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Unfortunately I didn't pick up the Scream Factory Blu-ray release. I may have to do that eventually. I was hoping the UK was going to get a Blu-ray release, but we still don't have it. And this is a Warner Brothers one, so hopefully the UK get it. If we don't, I will get the Scream Factory release. Nothing wrong with Scream Factory, I do like it. It's just my Region 1 Blu-ray player. It's a Blu-ray rewriter that I've locked to Region 1 intentionally, so that when I do watch my Scream Factory Blu-rays, I put it into the Blu-ray rewriter, plug it into the laptop, and then from the laptop I plug that into the TV. So it's a bit of a rigmarole to watch my Region 1 movies, but it's still a cheap option for me. If you don't have a Region 1 player guys, and if you're from the UK, that is a cheap option, because you can get a Blu-ray rewriter for like £50 or something, and it's a cheap option if you really want it. Another one I mentioned was the People Under the Stairs. Again, you've got the ground, you've got the house, then you've got this sky art with an evil entity, in this case a skull, and that's the reason why I wanted to watch movies back in the day, just based on the cover. This is an Arrow release. I do have the Scream, no I don't have the Scream Factory release. What am I talking about? I was going to buy the Scream Factory release, and then Arrow announced they were releasing it as well. And I do appreciate Arrow, they do bring out new commission artwork, like for example this. And they also give you the option to change it around to the original artwork, because I'm more of an old school person. I do love the original artwork. And another thing that I want to talk about as well is artwork back in the 90s, the late 90s specifically, like the teen slashers. They would have really badly edited posters with all the heads on it. You know what ones I'm talking about, like the ones from Scream, Urban Legend, etc, etc. And They were good at the time as a teenager because I'm like, that's got teenagers on the front, I want to rent it or buy it. And then over time, when you look at them, you're like, this artwork's really bad. So why did I even like that? But now we're in 2021 and I'm starting to like that artwork again. I know, I'm crazy. I'm starting to like that artwork again. So nostalgia for me could be completely different to nostalgia for you. It just depends how old you are and how you grew up watching movies. So looking at those late 90s heads on the posters is nostalgic for me. I did hate it later on, and then it came back full circle. So I really like the fact that it doesn't matter if a movie's not out in the 80s, because that's nostalgia for me as well. Nostalgia could be anything or any time for anyone. The best memories I have of the video store is on a Friday night I would go to my gran's, and she would always give me and my sister £1 each. My little brother was too young at the time, so she would give my sister £1 and give me £1. And there wasn't much option in terms of price when you go into the video store. I went into an independent video store before Global and Blockbuster took over. I went into this independent video store. It was just across the road from my gran, so it was very easy. We would go in with £1 each. Now the options were, you could rent a standard movie for £1, so we could rent a movie each. You could rent a kids movie for 50 pence, so we could rent 2 kids movies each. Or you could rent a really old movie that nobody really wants to rent for 50 pence, which we tend not to do. Or the new releases were £2 to rent at the time. So if we put our heads together, we could put our pounds together and rent a £2 movie. Me and my sister had different views on films back in the day. I love horror, and she liked more the kind of comedy, romance and stuff. So we tended not to put our money together. But I always remember one time, and I've mentioned this before, where my dad would come in with us and he would maybe rent a video or two as well. And he decided Universal Soldier was out, one of the new ones at the time. I think it was back in 1991, possibly 92, depending on when the movie came out on VHS. It was a new release at the time, and I said to him, yeah, I mean, I don't mind renting it if Kelly wants to rent it, my sister. So we were going to put our pounds together to get this £2 Universal Soldier. But then I saw movies like Fright Night again and stuff, and I thought, do you know what, I don't really want to do that. I want to rent a horror movie. And my dad would let me rent horror movies, but then he went up to the desk, and this annoys me to this day, and he rented Universal Soldier with both our pounds. Now my sister wasn't that fussed, but I was raging. I was like, why did you do that? I wanted you to rent this movie. I can't remember what it was, Pet Sematary or something. And he's like, no, you wanted to rent Universal Soldier. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I wanted a horror movie. And to this day, he would still argue that I said I wanted Universal Soldier. But truth be told, and I would probably do the same, he wanted to rent Universal Soldier. He didn't want to spend any money of his own, and he took my £1 and my sister's £1 and he rented Universal Soldier, and I was totally gutted. Well, the good thing was though, when we watched Universal Soldier, I loved it. I pretended I hated it because I was seething at my dad for doing that to me. But one of the biggest issues for me was I didn't have lots of money, and I didn't get to go to the video store anytime I wanted to. So because that happened on the Friday night, I then had to wait a full week before I could go in and rent something else again. So that was a bit of a bummer. But that was one of my earliest experiences that I remember. Now, I did go to the video store way before that as well, but I don't really have a lot of memories until that Universal Soldier day, because that was a memorable day for me, and I always spoke about it years later. It just stuck with me. So that was my earliest memory of being in a video store. After I grew up a little bit and decided I didn't really want to go to the video store to rent movies because I could just buy them online or whatever, if online was available, I tended to go and play football and stuff. So I kind of lost touch with horror movies and videos in general. And then after I got a job as a paper boy on a Sunday morning, and I would have quite a bit of money after it because I had quite a big paper round, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to the video store and see if they've got any good movies to either rent or to buy. And I remember getting into the video store and realising, I didn't know this at the time, I was 14 I think, I realised that you could actually buy ex-rental movies. Obviously that's a thing that everyone knows, but I didn't know at the time. So I went in expecting to rent movies, and then I saw them to purchase at not a bigger cost. At the time I went back in, it must have been about £3 at this point to rent a new movie, but after a couple of months you could buy the ex-rentals for like £10. £10 was cheap at the time. And I was like, oh, I might just save up my money and buy a movie. So I think I got about, say, £20 or so of money that I could use to buy whatever I want. So I would go in every weekend after I got my paper round money and buy 2 movies. So the first 2 movies that I bought, I know this is sad, but the first 2 movies that I bought on ex-rental were Armageddon and Deep Impact. I know that both of them are pretty similar, but I remember that was the ones that I bought. I wanted to buy Blade at the time because that was one that just came out after on ex-rental, but I wasn't old enough. I went up to the desk and I tried it, and they're like, no, you can't buy that, it's an 18. I'm like, alright, sorry, I didn't realise, even though I did. And that was it. But leading up after that, they had this box. I went to Blockbuster Video and Global Video at this point, and this was Blockbuster I went into. They had this box of not ex-rentals but new movies that you could buy as well. I was sifting through them for the horror section, and I saw Sometimes They Come Back was there, and I was totally excited because Sometimes They Come Back was a movie that I watched on TV quite a lot, and I thought, I want to buy this. This is a movie that I could actually own and not have to wait for the movie to come back out on TV or try and record a dodgy version of it. I could actually buy this movie to have it to keep. My problem with this was Sometimes They Come Back in the UK was a 15, and I was only 14 at the time, and even though I was 14 I couldn't pass for a 15-year-old because they're really small. I probably didn't even look 14, I probably looked 12. So I was gutted, but I stayed there. I don't know why, but I thought to myself, am I going to work up the courage to go and buy this, or am I just going to put it down and somebody else is going to buy it? Luckily, my friend Lee, he wasn't my friend at the time, he was my neighbour's friend. He walked past at the same time and I asked him to come in. I was like, can you come in, Lee? And I said to him, can you buy this for me? He was like 17, and he's like, no. I'm like, why not? Come on. You know my mum lets me watch this. Lee knew my mum. And he's like, okay, I'll buy it for you. So he bought it for me, and I waited outside like I was buying alcohol. I waited outside and he brought it out, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. It cost me £5 and it was great. And I absolutely loved that. So that was the first VHS, first brand new VHS that I bought. Yes, my mum maybe bought me a few when I was a kid, but this was the first ever VHS that I bought with my own money, not including the ex-rentals that were Deep Impact and Armageddon. The first brand new VHS that I bought was a horror movie, and it was Sometimes They Come Back. Unfortunately, I did sell a lot of my VHSs to make way for DVDs, but the good thing is I still have Sometimes They Come Back on VHS. The very first VHS that I bought with my own money, I still have. It's up in my bedroom at the moment, and it's away in a box, so I can't show you it right now, but I'm being honest with you, I still have it. Back in those days though, I knew most of the people that worked in Blockbuster and worked in Global Video at the time because I was always there. I didn't have to wait once a week anymore because I was old enough to go myself, and I would just go in and spend a full day almost just looking at the covers. Sometimes the people in there would say, you going to buy anything? Are you going to rent anything? I'm just like, I don't know, I'm still having a look just now, I've not decided. But no exaggeration, I would go in at 10 in the morning when it opened, and I'd be there until dinner time because I just didn't know what to buy. If I had money, £20 was a lot of money, but to decide on 2 movies out of all the movies that were there was a hard thing to do. So I would be there for a long time, a good few hours. Sometimes I would only buy movies based on the cover art. Even though I knew the movie wasn't great, I would still buy it based on the cover art. Sometimes I would go in knowing that a movie's not out yet on ex-rental to buy, but I would go in every day and say, is that available yet for ex-rental? One of the ones I remember doing that with was The Faculty. I loved the movie, I rented it, and I thought I need to buy that when it comes out in ex-rental so I don't have to rent it all the time. But round about the time that I thought it would come out in ex-rental, I would go in every single day and ask, is that out in ex-rental yet? And randomly, it came out on X-Rental on my birthday on December the 8th, 1999. I know that it came out in 98 in the cinema, but we didn't get the X-Rental until December the 8th, 1999. Exactly my birthday, and I was so happy with that. I could go on and on about my video store memories. I might do another part of video store memories in the future because I do have a lot of memories of video stores, mostly after the age of 14 upwards. Again, my earliest memory was that Universal Soldier time. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old at the time. 8 years old, I think I was. But after that, I've got so many more memories, and I don't want to clog up my memories in one video. I will do it again in the future. Just a quick thing before I go as well is, when I was thinking about doing this movie corner, I didn't think of having any guests on in the future. But after I'd done my first introduction, a lot of people who were commenting on my video, I thought, you know what? I interact with you quite a lot and you're really knowledgeable in the field. Why don't we do a collaboration of my movie corner? And most of them said yes. Some of them haven't got back to me yet, so you better get back to me. But yeah, they've all said yes, and it's really good. So I'm actually going to start doing same thing, same background and stuff, but have some guests on and collaborate with some of the guests. I don't want to say them yet, just in case some of them pull out or they can't do it or they don't answer me. So I won't mention the guests yet. If you're a guest, you know who you are. But I'm going to have some people on in the future as well, and we'll talk about other categories that we can discuss on the movie corner. What I might try and do as well with these guests is have a subject based on what their specialist subject is, so that they can feel comfortable when they do the segment with me. So look out for that. This was a bit of a long video, guys. I don't know yet how long these videos are going to be, if they're going to be less than 10 minutes or over half an hour. They might just fluctuate depending on the thing that I'm talking about that day. So apologies, I'm hoping that you can stick with me if it is a long video. If you've got any video store memories though, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. There's nothing more satisfying than reading people's memories of the video stores, because sometimes those memories that I read bring back memories for me as well. So please share your memories down below and I'll reply to as many as I can. And as always, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.